make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate all the support for the YouTube channels. Also, too, we have expanded CBM geek news and coverage and what I'm hearing over on the Patreon, patreon.com/sylabdul. Jump over there, become a patron. We're going to do DC plus expanded, all kinds of geek news, pop culture. There'll be exclusive live streams on the Patreon and exclusive uploads as well. Again, join the Patreon, pop-up streams as well. So again, live content is exclusively on Patreon. Much appreciated.
Previously,
it's with sylabdul.
Paramount has the best deal, and Netflix really has been pushing this to the point where on this poly market, for a moment, Netflix was favored to win the bid, but it definitely is feeling like Paramount, is the favorite. So
it's Coffee Talk with sylabdul. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe now.
Wake up in the morning, eyes crusty, heavy yawning. My phone keep going off, so I shut off the alarm and then head into the kitchen to get the coffee brewing. French roast with French vanilla, my own French revolution. Next movement is to tune into Coffee Talk with Sil. My girl starts to yap if I tell her she needs to chill. I hear enough of the yapping from all of these goofy shills. Plus I'm trying to be informed of whatever's the latest deal. For real.
just on the surface, this isn't a bad deal. It just, let's just keep it real, right? Netflix wasn't my pick to win this, okay? Like Netflix, I was not hoping Netflix would win this. Just want to be just fully transparent with the patrons here. This was totally out of left field for a lot of people. Industry insiders, just business people. Everyone was blindsided by this nearly midnight coup that Netflix pulled. I was definitely hoping for Paramount because of obviously the Saudi connection. We saw the connections there. The leaked Paramount deal, I thought was a slam dunk. I was like, this is going to satisfy theatrical people. This is going to satisfy, just the Hollywood industry. All of them were pulling for Paramount. And then obviously the selfish part of me was the Saudi connection to Zack Snyder. And I was like, oh, we can get this all. And then on top of that, it was going to fire James Gunn. but it was just kind of crazy, man. What overall happened. And I like to just deal in reality, but like I said, I don't hide from that. I know people was messaging me like, "Oh, you saying Paramount was going to win?" Like, bro, every trade, every business journal, everyone thought Paramount was going to get this. And it turns out, as we're going to pick through a lot of stuff here, it turns out Paramount never gave their best offer. Like, again, Netflix is going to end up spending about $80 billion. I think the official number is $72 billion. And I talked about, again, through this whole process, that $70 billion was the magic number that Zaslav wanted. Netflix went over that number, and they didn't get the entire Warner Bros. Discovery. Again, they got the important parts. So Netflix, in a sense, overpaid. That's what it takes if you're bidding. Paramount was trying to sit there like playing chicken with themselves. I lost a lot of respect for Paramount, okay? And then don't get me started on Comcast, because we've been talking about them for like 5 years, and they allowed Netflix to outbid them. It's insane. So we're gonna go through a lot of things with this deal, and this is just gonna be pretty interesting. Again, much love to the patrons. We're gonna jump through a few reports here. And so let's kind of just start off with this. That make sure I got my commercials up. What does this deal mean? Because we're gonna get to the hard facts of all this, but just what does this mean? Well, first, just for the theatrical experience, man, if you're on Twitter, I think your timeline has a few people who are really upset about this. Like, I just rather the Paramount package and then what potentially what that could mean. Because that leaked deal sounded amazing. So I was all on board with Paramount. I don't hide that at all. A lot of people out there, they're like, this is the end of theatrical experience as we know it. And it may be. We got some quotes from the co-CEO of Netflix, and he's just like, yo, things is changing. We got Warner Brothers. What can you tell me now? Is basically like Netflix is feeling themselves too much right now. So Mr. J says, I read that Paramount actually offered 30 per share. WBD went with 27 per share. So that's the weird thing. Paramount's coming out now saying, hey, we offered, we offered this. And we'll go through the official numbers, but it's coming out that Paramount apparently didn't put up 72 billion. So that's what Netflix put up. And again, Netflix is getting less of the company that Paramount was going for. So we'll definitely get some specifics with that. I'm very disappointed in Paramount though. We had the golden brick road to satisfy multiple audiences, and now the future is now. That's really the first thing. I wasn't really thinking of this until the deal closed, or the deal was announced. It still has to go through the regulatory process, and again, we all understand that. Netflix is basically a tech company, just like Amazon, just like Apple, and I've been talking about this on my platform for the last couple of years, is that one of these tech companies is going to make a splash. Apple was flirting with the idea of trying to buy Disney, and they kind of tucked their chain in with that. Amazon already bought MGM, and they're still trying to kind of get their feet under them. Amazon is. I wish they were ready to make this plunge for Warner Brothers. It's just kind of like a year too early for Amazon to be ready, because Amazon hasn't really put out any big theatrical film since buying MGM a few years ago. They're going to get that with Voltron coming up with Henry Cavill, the new James Bond film, directed by Denny V, right? That's amazing. So it's going to be a lot of stuff going on with Amazon. It's just, this was too early for them to kind of, even aim high with Warner Brothers. But Netflix is deemed a tech company, king of streaming, and the only thing Netflix was lacking was a theatrical angle, because their business model is anti-theaters. But it would make sense for them partnering with a film studio, a storied film studio at that. Mr. Dre says Paramount equals JJ McCarthy. Yeah, like I said, I lost a lot of respect for Paramount. Now they're trying to say, "Oh, we're gonna try to strong arm the shareholders." No, let me tell you, just there's a little stuff that I'm hearing with this, but a lot of stuff is publicly out there, so I'm not gonna break any news for a lot of people, but the shareholders, the money people, they are happy with this Netflix deal. Again, does that guarantee it's going to pass through the regulatory steps and get through the Trump administration? It doesn't guarantee that. But as I said with Comcast, because it was a pushback saying Trump doesn't like Comcast, Brian Roberts, the CEO of Comcast, because he allowed a lot of that stuff to go on MSNBC, Trump bashing. This is a long story with that. And so Trump is petty. And everyone expected if Comcast would have won this bid, Trump was going to bend over backwards, pause, to block people he don't like, right? But I always said if Comcast would have stepped up to the arena here, to get through these regulatory stages, all you gotta do is pay the right people. So I really didn't really believe Trump could block anyone. And I just gotta be fair. I gotta apply that same thing with Netflix. There's been a lot of big talk, a lot of people saying what they're going to stop. Netflix is feeling really good right now. Warner Brothers is feeling really good. Again, the shareholders are happy. The money people are happy. The investors in Warner Brothers. So I think they're going to have all the support to push this through. And we got a timetable as well with that. So we'll discuss that as well. Carlos says, do you think Netflix will invest in theaters? I'll let them speak for themselves on that. We got some quotes with that as well too. So again, just my initial thought, just shock because Netflix was not supposed to win this. Paramount again got too cute and somehow got outbidded. But again, that's debatable. But it was clear what Zaslav wanted in this deal was first a true merger. If you see how Netflix is talking, they're like, "Oh, Warner Brothers, do your thing. We're Netflix. We sign your checks now, but y'all are the experienced studio people." That's what Zaslav wanted. He wanted to have someone come in and pick up the debt. This is multiple wins actually with this overall. Zaslav inherited over $50 billion of debt, got it down to the 30s, I believe. And now through this deal and through different financing that Netflix is using, Warner Brothers essentially will be out of debt. That's a little scary for the industry. So that's one thing. Netflix, again, the one Achilles heel they have is the theatrical game. Warner Brothers just had the best year, one of the best years ever in theaters, over $4 billion in box office numbers. A string of hits since Minecraft, all the way up to the Conjuring films, Sinners. Yes, Superman. Superman counts in that. They distributed F1. They got a piece of that as well too. So this is a perfect marriage business-wise. When we kind of sit back and look at it, I prefer the Paramount side of that, but when you look at it, this actually is a perfect pairing for a lot of parties involved. So interesting. So that's the initial thought, and then again with theaters, will Netflix commit to theaters? I think that's a question mark. I think Netflix is going to have films out there for like a month. It definitely is going to be under 45 days, unless it's like some insane legs, and then they'll probably let these films roll. There's going to be shorter theatrical windows. Just the CEO said it in plain English today, and again, we'll go over his quotes. So I feel for those who's like, the theatrical game, and really just theater owners. The only way to offset shorter windows is more content, but you got to have quality over quantity. So we'll see. We'll see what that means with Netflix, but insane. I'm still shocked by all this, to be quite honest. And so the root of this, though, the root of my audience and everything that we talk about, it starts with DC, right? And so what does this mean for DC? Just on the surface, before we get to specifics, with Gunn and SnyderVerse, Netflix owns DC now. Just in general, insane content is coming. Whoever is at the helm of DC, insane content is coming for DC. Like, just on the surface, I am really excited for what Netflix is going to do with DC, because they really took a lot of plunges for like Sandman and licensing stuff for DC as well, worldwide. And so for the DC brand, they're in good hands. I'm just gonna say that bluntly. I'm excited for what Netflix is gonna do with DC. Once I got a chance to kind of catch my breath and process what's happened, um, DC's in good hands. Now they're going to allow Warner Brothers, like I said, to run a lot of this stuff, but Netflix could be like, oh, we want an ongoing series like Carlos was saying, Young Justice. Who's going to stop Netflix now? Right? We want Young Justice. We're going to do Young Justice. I think we're going to have, and they're still going to utilize the HBO as well, but I think they're going to keep like, I won't say like the serious stuff at HBO, but like, they want to go for, Golden Globes and stuff, or Emmys with streaming, like Penguin. That stuff will stay with the HBO brand, but then they could really branch out and just do all kinds of DC animation, DC series, spinoffs. DC is actually in good hands. Again, just overall, we'll get to some specifics, but that's the reality. I really cannot be mad at the prospects of DC under Netflix. So that's one thing. But specifically, SnyderVerse, right? What does this mean for SnyderVerse? If you would ask me like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I'll say 2 years ago, what would it mean if Netflix would buy DC? First, we never thought DC would be for sale. And technically it wasn't, they bought all of Warner Brothers. 2 years ago, I thought Netflix, as far as, you had Zack Snyder doing his first look deals, first look projects with Netflix. And it seemed like that was the platform to even possibly restore the SnyderVerse. And then they hired Dan Lin. Dan Lin came in, because this is when Scott Stuber was over Netflix, anything was possible, right? The sky was the limit and beyond. Mr. J said 2 to 3 years ago, it would have been a slam dunk to restore. Yeah, I mean, it's just a reality, right? Is that when Dan Lin came in, he applied cost-cutting measures. Scott Stuber, in a sense, was, I guess, spending too much money under Netflix. Though Zack Snyder, Rebel Moon, Stuber signed Zack for that, and Zack gave him 4 cuts of the film, or 4 films under one budget of $166 million. Insane. So Stuber wasn't just blowing money, but Dan Lin, he came in, and all of a sudden, Zack wants to do the LA SWAT film, and that project is put on hold because Netflix doesn't want to spend, enough money to fund it. And Zack's like, this is the number that I need for me and my entire crew to make this look cool, on Netflix. This is in theaters. And I'll kind of get back to that in a moment, because, like, what does this mean? Dan Lin is the movie guy specifically. He's over Netflix films. Bringing in Warner Brothers, you have DeLuca and Abdi. They had one of the greatest years ever in film history this year. Dan Lin, is he going to stick to streaming and then allow DeLuca and Abdi run the theatrical? I hope so. What does this mean for the HBO crew? I think there's definitely going to be some cutbacks with the HBO crew, but I think, Casey Bloys may survive that. Because, again, Dan Lin is more of a movie guy. So it's a way for all of them to kind of be under the same umbrella. But as far as SnyderVerse, as I put on social media, and people got upset at me just giving my honest take on this is that this, I don't know where the idea came that if Netflix was to, buy Warner Bros., that they were going to restore the SnyderVerse. I wish that would be true, but again, probably 2 years ago, that would have felt like a real thing. Right now, after seeing how they've been dealing with Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder, just to paint this picture, he has a first look deal with Netflix, meaning whatever film idea Zack Snyder has, Netflix has first dibs at it, right? The Last Photograph, Netflix passed. So Zack was like, okay, let's do the LA SWAT film. I'm gonna make this really cool LAPD film. It's gonna be a lot of action. You know how Zack's gonna do it. And he was like, this is a great idea, Zack, but we're not gonna spend that much on it. Zack, okay, I want to do this passion project, The Last Photograph. Netflix, I got a great idea. You can shop it. That's what Zack said. So Zack got funding from third-party sources to make The Last Photograph. He shot it, it's in the can. I mean, he's in post right now on it. And then he's going to shop the film, probably like at film festivals, because Netflix passed on it. So with these circumstances, we have the last 2 years to look back on now with their relationship with Zack Snyder. Am I confident they're going to be like, oh, hey, Zack, let's do this Elseworld DC project. And we're going to spend the necessary money to do it. I don't feel that's the case. So again, 2 years ago, that I would have been like, oh yeah, that's what they're going to do. With this here, it's a question mark to me, and to be honest, I know that upset it. Some people, maybe people that's follow my content for years now, and obviously I want Zack to finish his story, and I thought there was a real chance with the Paramount package. You had, again, the Saudis in the deal, they could use major IP. I thought it was a no-brainer. They would use DC and they would use Zack Snyder as like their favorite director. So I feel like that was a missed opportunity. Someone on Twitter, it hurt me seeing this comment. It was because I got like PTSD from the Black Adam days, and it was like, this is like Black Adam all over again, where you're right there at the precipice. Who's right there? Paramount, just win the bid. You had an all-star finance team with the Arab sovereign nations, co-owners of the legendary entertainment, and then Paramount, you're David Ellison, you're rich, your daddy's rich, you got the money. But it's something they say out there, like rich people, like they penny pitch more than anyone else. Like they pinch their pennies for some reason. But just apparently they got outbid, or they just didn't put their best offer. I don't know why. And we'll go through some reports here in just a moment on that. But yeah, it's crazy. People get upset at other people's opinions. And yeah, my thing is, I'm not going to hide who was my favorite this entire time. I know people try to make it like a political thing with Paramount and the Ellisons and Trump and Zaslav, and a lot of those stories kind of fell. Those people putting out those stories, they're going to get real quiet right now. I made no mistake about it. I was like, I saw the connection with the Saudis and Zack and Paramount, and I was like, I'm 100% 10 toes down on that deal. And they lost. They fumbled. They pump faked, however you want to put it. And this is the results. So yeah, I have nothing to hide with that. And again, I'm not going to hide my trepidation how Netflix has literally treated Zack Snyder. Like I'm literally, you see for yourself how they've been treating Zack Snyder. Now, do I believe the whole, oh, they going to cancel everything and all this stuff? No, I don't believe that they canceled everything Zack Snyder is going to do. But I just don't like the current relationship status of that. So I know there's a segment of the Snyder fandom that's saying, this means they're going to restore the SnyderVerse. I wish I had that same confidence. I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing. Maybe other people are hearing stuff. It's quite possible it's going to be status quo for Warner Brothers and DC, and going forward, Paramount was going to shake things up, and I really think Paramount would have presented something where, again, all sides probably would have had something. Right now, I don't know. All right. I guess let's go ahead and touch on the Gunn part, since I'm talking about what this means for all sides. James Gunn and this DCU. Now, I was hearing the entire time, and it was out there. It was out there that even Paramount was dangling the idea that, oh yeah, we're going to keep everybody. And then a few days ago, that bombshell dropped where they were recruiting. They were telling directors, hey, we want to sign you to a multi-picture deal, like Zach Kreger from Weapons, right? And then Zach Kreger was like, oh yeah, let's talk about a movie deal, but I would like to direct a DC film too. And I was told that it was more than one director that said that. Like, this was just something that was coming up. Who could the other director have been? Again, I didn't hear Zack Snyder directly. I can only assume maybe it was Ayer. Who knows, right? But that was the thing that Paramount was basically telling people, hey, if you want to do DC, it looks like we're going to own it. So, we'll give you a shot. And this really threatened the whole establishment of the DC studios and Gunn and Safran. With them not having a extension yet, that's all you can do is question, like, are they really going to keep, Gunn and Safran? So you got this report here. Now, it is citing John Campea. People immediately say, oh, John Campea, like, oh my goodness, like, and you got to realize when these shields, step up, he has really good shield sourcing, and so that's why Campea put it out there that hey, with the Netflix acquisition, they're going to keep James Gunn. My take, that's the news, but my take on this is that Gunn and Safran, they better announce some kind of extension. Maybe after Supergirl comes out, then you'll hear about Gunn and Safran's extension. As long as Supergirl has good headlines, then you'll hear that Gunn and Safran are staying on. They may have already signed an extension, right? As far as what I heard. But they're going to use that as a news drop. So we'll revisit that when next summer, and we'll see how that rolls overall. But this is what Campea is saying. We'll see. That's why I said, like, certain segments cheering this Netflix acquisition, thinking it was going to restore the SnyderVerse and fire everyone. This was the best case scenario for James Gunn. Netflix buying Warner Brothers. If Paramount would have bought them, we heard those rumblings. They were going to shake up things. Comcast, Brian Roberts didn't want Zaslav to, be sitting there, making decisions for him. Comcast would have overshot everything too, and have been like, hey, if it's working, you could ride with it. But if it, if we see opportunities to improve, then Paramount definitely would have stepped in. And I believe Comcast would as well too. Netflix is gonna actually allow Warner Brothers to, as of, you're gonna probably retire here now. That's what's going on. It's a true merger, a vertical merger, instead of, because people try to turn this into, oh, Netflix is buying HBO Max and they're grouping together. No, Netflix likely will keep the HBO brand separate. They're going to put all the content on Netflix, and Netflix price is obviously going to go up. But if you just want HBO Max, there's a separate thing for that as well too. But going forward, as far as what I'm hearing, is that all you're going to need is Netflix after everything closes. And if you want just HBO Max, it'll probably be a little cheaper. But you might get ready for like $39.99 Netflix, folks. Okay, just get ready. When they integrate all the HBO stuff, yeah, get ready for that. But they're saying possibly they're going to keep James Gunn, and I'll believe it when I see the extension. But also, too, Netflix doesn't have anyone to take his position. DeLuca and ABDUL is more on the fence than Gunn in this acquisition. That's just where we're at, right? Insane times, man. Insane times. And we'll see. We'll see how all this shakes out. Let's go through a few of these reports. And then Zack Snyder was active on social media again as well. So we'll definitely discuss that. Let's see. I have my article, and then this is the official, because I just went through my whole little rant here, but let's get to the official reports out there. Let's see what we got here. Netflix announced it. Now, again, the deal has to close. It still has to go through the regulatory process and and everything. But it was a lot of victory laps today. And I was really surprised. Like, in between work, I was trying to check, what was going on. And it was a lot of victory laps. Let's see. Carlos says, is it nuts to see if Gunn and Zack project collab on DC? I might get some hate for this comment. That's what Carlos was saying. So let me make this clear. I do believe, and I've been saying this the entire time, I do believe that Zack Snyder will do DC again, no matter who was going to buy this company. I was just more confident in the Paramount deal for Justice League 2 in theaters, because we want this in theaters. Now with Netflix, this is probably where I'm going to upset some people saying this, but since all this is kind of falling in line here, and Netflix actually could potentially own Warner Brothers now, right? If this closes, doing full circle, this was like 2 years ago, I broke the story that Zack Snyder extended his contract with Netflix, right? Netflix, they had a lot of ideas with Zack Snyder and things like that. The idea of animation definitely came up from the Netflix side. Not sure how on board Zack Snyder ultimately is with that. Conversations already happened for that. All right. And this is something I'll clip out. Obviously we want the Nightmare movie. So it just kind of, I want to just throw it out there that Netflix has already tossed around the idea of animated. And this was before, this is during the Scott Stuber days. I just think Zach knows his complete fandom, his audience, and we know there will be a lot of people that would get upset at even the thought of animation. But I just want to make it clear out there that Netflix did discuss that, y'all. Where are they at now? We'll see. I don't know how a clean way for them to even do that. So, but I just want to kind of put it out there. Can Zack do DC now with Netflix at the helm? I still think it's possible. When I say Zack doing DC again, I want him to complete his story in live action. He talked about the Dark Knight Returns thing, and we'll get to kind of Zack. He's being really active still on social media, so we'll definitely get to that. But that is what it is. That's just a nugget for y'all right there. That was discussed. I was told that, I think it was like during Full Circle, like when I was out there in California, my sources hit me up on that, and I was like, I'm not reporting this. It's like, I'm not reporting this animated talk, because I knew, people feel some kind of way when you're just a messenger. When I put out the George Clooney stuff, people made it like, oh, you want George Clooney? It's like, no, just this is what's about to happen in the Flash film. I didn't will that into existence. And so the animated talk, and after Full Circle, you saw like different journalists coming out. And Forbes, they had this whole article talking about, oh, you should animate the Snyderverse. So it was a real thing. It was a real thing. I don't know if the idea is dead. I know Netflix will want to do it. So maybe Zack hasn't signed off on it. That's probably the only thing that's stopping that right now. But we'll leave that one behind for now. So Netflix officially announced to acquire Warner Brothers following the separation of Discovery Global for a total enterprise value of $82.7 billion, equity value of $72 billion. I guess out of pocket $72 billion. Whatever. Rich people talk. Let's see. Let's go to the article. Today, Netflix Inc. and Warner Bros. Discovery announced they have entered a definitive agreement under which Netflix will acquire Warner Brothers, including its film and television studios, HBO Max, and HBO. The cash and stock transactions valued at $27.75 per share. I think Zaza was 1 in 30, but that's what he got. The total value, $82.7 billion. Transactions expected to close after the previously announced separation of WB's Global Networks division. So that's a split. That's going to happen. The split's going to happen. This is the update here. Third quarter 2026. So after next summer. So after Supergirl, probably when Clayface is about to come out, they're going to officially split. Then they're going to officially submit the deal in. They've signed off. This is what they want to do. This acquisition brings together two pioneering entertainment businesses, combining Netflix innovation, global reach, best-in-class streaming service with Warner Brothers' century-long legacy of world-class storytelling. Beloved franchises, shows, and movies such as The Big Bang Theory, Sopranos, Game of Thrones. See, Netflix is like, we're going to stream all this stuff. like Netflix is, this is stuff they had to license. Now they own all this stuff. The DC universe will join Netflix's extensive portfolio. Insane. co-CEO, or Ted Sarandos says, by combining Warner Brothers' incredible library of shows and movies, timeless classics like Casablanca, Citizen Kane, to our culture defining titles. He mentioned they got Harry Potter as well. This is too much power for Netflix. Okay. Like, you're already the content king, Netflix. So what do? Give them more content. And HBO Max has been coming up. They're number 3 in the world as far as streaming, behind Disney Plus and Netflix, respectfully. Amazon, their numbers are kind of skewed, though Amazon has over 200 million subscribers to Prime, but they don't really count that because a lot of people get Prime just for the shopping, but you have access to the streaming. So anyway, Amazon's up there too, but technically it's Netflix over 300 million subscribers, Disney Plus just under 200, I believe, and HBO Max 120 million subscribers worldwide. So you're adding that content together. Bananas. It's not fair. This isn't fair on the content side, but the fact that Netflix is getting the studio, the theatrical studio, then that seems like a good partnership. Actually, it actually does. Again, I have my favorites, but got to recognize the real here. This was not a bad partnership on the surface. This acquisition will improve our offering and accelerate our business for decades to come. And that's why I said it's like just in general, Netflix owning the DC brand, tons of possibilities of DC content. And that side of me is excited. Is just the other uncertainties with Netflix is what I was worried about. And what I am worried about. But if I'm just totally looking at just DC as a brand, Netflix, they're going to mine that content. You're going to have DC events every year on Netflix. You're going to. And I just hope, they respect the theaters, overall with that. That's the only question. The theatrical side, because the content side, we eating every year, I believe, with DC, and they're going to integrate HBO Max. They're going to make sure DC, they're on the fence of this Penguin season 2. Netflix is going to do Penguin season 2. People was asking, "Oh, you think they could do the Air cut?" I believe Netflix will put out the Air cut. It's about content. Well, Netflix, we own this now? Yeah. You're going to make that Penguin, okay, season 2. That's going to be an event. We keep the HBO brand on it, right? It'll be through HBO, but you can watch it on Netflix. And why not? Why not put out the Air cut? That's more content. Not surprised at all by that. So you see them all bloviating over each other. Value to their stockholders, all that stuff, right? Insane. Let's jump over here because we want to get some more specifics with this. And in fact, I think we covered the bullet points in this already. That 72 billion number. And see, that's the weird thing. It's like Paramount, for some reason, they didn't want to. They were penny pinching, but again, was their final bid higher? This is the quote right here. Let me make sure this is coming across. Yeah. Breaking news: Air cut is imminent. Now, I believe we can get the Air cut. I believe Schumacher cut. Throw all that on Netflix. Like, why are we playing, right? So I think we can get all that for sure. Carlos says they'll probably do the CW thing where it's on HBO weekly. Then once season's done, you drop full season on Netflix. Yeah, they're gonna find a good way for that. Though, well, again, what, and this is very early, and I may have a quote, I may have an article talking about the streaming strategy, but my understanding is that they're going to integrate HBO into Netflix, and that's why Netflix, the price is going to go up on Netflix, to kind of have, just like you have Netflix and Hulu, Disney Plus and Hulu together. You may get something like that with Netflix and HBO, but then you can have just HBO Max separately. Most of us, Netflix, they've been raising the cost of this as long as I've had Netflix. So I'm just gonna roll with Netflix, integrate HBO. I'm good. We're still a couple years from that happening. So that is what it is. But it says here, Paramount sought to buy the entire company. And I think that whining note that turned off a lot of people on Paramount. I mean, people was putting out the whole political thing, and Paramount's going to take out woke entertainment. Like, bro, fix Star Trek first. Like, you're trying to come over to Warner Brothers, but so it was that political angle. But still, people was like, Paramount is a theatrical studio, and I don't mind them owning Warner Brothers, DC. And then David Ellison, he came out with that note, just whining and crying because Netflix was winning. And to my understanding, all Paramount had to do was just up their bid, as far as I understand. But anyway, they're saying here Paramount bid $30 per share, all cash, for Warner Discovery, according to people familiar with the matter. Paramount is weighing its next move, which could involve pivoting to other potential acquisitions. People familiar with its plan said. Basically, Paramount, just tuck your chain in. Okay, you lost. Now, with this bidding process, and again, I was hoping Paramount will win this, but it is up to Warner Brothers and their board to decide who they want to buy them. Like, Paramount's like, no, like, we're gonna strong arm this. Y'all gonna let us buy you. It's like Warner Brothers like, we really don't like how you acting. So, like, just back up. We're gonna partner with Netflix because of the whole, vertical partnership, where we each have something the other person don't have. With Paramount and Warner Brothers is all this overlapping, overall. And so, you can't make someone accept your offer. It's like, that's the whole spoiled rich kid syndrome is how Paramount, David Ellison, has been acting. And as much as I wanted him to win the bid for selfish reasons, obviously SnyderVerse is a big part of it. I'm just like, bro, I'm kind of glad you lost since you're whining about all this. So that is what it is. That is what it is with that. But yeah, Paramount, I guess, tried to give a good offer, but Warner Bros. Is like, we don't have to accept it. Now Paramount's saying Netflix, they won't get through the antitrust regulators. Trump's advisors are concerned. Netflix don't seem fazed by this. And so, just like I said, just overall, this was actually a good partnership. But we'll see, again, how they address the concerns people are having. Now, we have some other quotes here. Yeah, they had a town hall meeting about all this. So let's get into that. 18-month regulatory process on the way. Again, the deal won't officially go in till third quarter of 2026. You're looking at a year and 6 months after that. You're likely going to get a chance to launch. And DC Wonder Woman is something Gunn really wants to get out there. So the time it takes to get this deal out or get this deal closed, Gunn is already going to have that next wave of DCU already out there. So, and if it's successful, Netflix will allow him to do his thing. That's kind of where we're at. Let's see what quotes we got in this one. Zazzle called it a big day for WBD. There was a town hall meeting over Zoom. You know, Zazzle loved his victory laps. And it says here, Zazzle suggesting that HBO Max will remain in some form after the acquisition. So again, HBO Max will be a cheaper option, HBO content, but it's going to be folded into Netflix. Warner Brothers Television, which produces, again, all that stuff, those execs will remain intact. Most of these, pretty much all the execs are going to remain intact with this deal. We're not surprised by that because, again, Warner Brothers, they're the film studio. They're the television people. They're they have their own streaming as well too, but they have everything Netflix doesn't have. So partnership makes sense. Says the group also outlines some of the financial details of the deal, including how the stock will work between Warner Bros. Discovery, you stock people out there, and Discovery Global, which will be spun out in the third quarter of next year. Interesting. So it's going to be, I guess, two different stocks. So then when Netflix owns them, though, that's going to be interesting to see. Maybe now, again, I'm not here to give professional tips of of stock. Maybe this is the time to get your Netflix stock now. I think that's something to kind of keep in mind, but because the price went down a little bit with this deal, so that's just something to keep in mind. Today is only the start of the process, it seems, something that Zazzle acknowledged that he told employees to put your seatbelts on. Okay. Yo, Zazzle. Now we got some quotes about theaters and how Netflix is going to deal with theaters. So let's get into that. Ted Sarandos says movie theater model is outdated. Most of the country cannot walk to a multiplex. Okay. That's pretty extreme. Ted Sarandos, co-CEO of Netflix, was asked, "Have you destroyed Hollywood?" Sarandos replied, "No, we're saving Hollywood." I don't know. According to Hollywood right now, they're not too happy with this dude. Not too happy with them, but this is his vision. The Netflix is a very consumer-focused company. We really do care that we deliver the program to you in a way you want to watch it. Sarandos says, the struggling global box office, for example, what does that say? What is the consumer trying to tell us? That they like to watch movies at home. Thank you. Oh, it sounds like Jason Kilar. The studios and the theaters are duking it out over trying to preserve this 45-day window that's completely out of step with the consumer experience of just loving a movie. This is interesting because you got a lot of people pushing back on this idea, on this approach. Sarandos, has James Cameron upset with him. The Directors Guild of America, they're going to come out against this deal. And the philosophies of Ted Sarandos, he's making it very clear. Those that are upset of shorter theatrical windows, get used to it. This is the end of an era. When you got these thoughts of this company, Netflix, taking over Warner Brothers, this is going to change the theatrical business for better or worse. I don't know what this means. You know, we have to kind of get to that point, but you've allowed Netflix to put their foot in a theatrical conversation, and they're going to do it their way. And I just wonder how that's going to affect how many films is coming out each year, and again, you know, the theatrical window. Netflix is not entirely removed from the movie theater business, as the company owns the LA Bay Theater, New York's Paris Theater, which Sorrento says Netflix saved from becoming a Walgreens. Okay, that's interesting. Didn't want to know that. Netflix also must give limited theatrical releases to films seeking reward qualifications. Okay. Sorrento says they have to run for a little bit. It helps with the press cycle a little bit. I've tried to encourage every director we work with to focus on the consumer, focus on the fans, make a movie that they love, and they will reward you. He continues, we're in a period of transition. Folks grew up thinking, I want to make movies on a gigantic screen and have strangers watch them, and to have them play in the theater for 2 months and people cry and sold out shows. It's an outdated concept. I'm not that extreme. This is kind of extreme how he's putting all this. I'm not there yet, but like, you know, the theatrical experience, you know, is a part of, you know, is, I guess, the culture, American culture or worldwide culture. I don't like how that's being diluted, how he's approaching it like that. And I think it would be a mistake to make it like across the board. All films get a 1 month release and then they go straight to Netflix. It's like, I don't know about that. But we have to see. He says an outmoded idea. I think for most people, not for everybody, if you're fortunate to live enough in Manhattan, you can walk into a multiplex and see a movie. That's fantastic. Most of the country cannot. But like theater owners, it's like he's kind of like just forgetting the local, you know, mom and pop theaters. That has to still mean something. The theatrical experience has to still mean something. That's why I'm not surprised at the people overreacting and calling this the end of theaters and everything. Because he's telling you point blank, he has plans to cut in that theatrical window. I mean, that was everyone's fears. And he's coming out like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. You know, it's outdated. He warned Hollywood not to get trapped behind wanting audiences to see movies in theaters, because that's how the film industry wants audiences to watch them. Well, it's a lot of, you know, back end deals, you know, and like Ryan Coogler with Sinners, he got first dollar profits from IMAX screenings. So Ryan Coogler pushed Sinners in IMAX as much as possible because, you know, he was benefiting financially from that, and he deserves it. He deserves that. This is a way of revenue for creators, and Netflix is cutting out a lot of that revenue, and that's what Hollywood is upset about, right? If we're going to keep it real, like, but again, also too, I love the theatrical experience, and that's still, you know, that's still a special thing. And all what Netflix is saying is like, oh yeah, you could be special for like a month, but his pushback is that wouldn't you rather be home watching this too? Like, yeah, you can go once in a while to the theaters, to the big screen, but don't you want convenience? So it's fair argument. but that this is going to suck for the theatrical the theater owners. Serrano's touched on the Donald Trump economic policies. Says it remains to be seen if it benefits Netflix. They're going to pay the right people. That's how that's going to work. So that's interesting. Interesting quotes.
Let me give you more reasons to follow the homie Sil for the latest news, scoops, and moves he's about to reveal. From coffee talks to special brews, Hamada burgers for meals, a cup of bourbon with that tea that's about to get spilled. Like, what's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. Take out your pen and paper, sit down and take notes. Sil is the realest among imposters, scavenging cutthroats. So, what's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show. Let's go. Between DC and Marvel, they both have a startle. Disney's moving finicky, let's not mention Star Wars. All these movie execs be drunk off their power, disconnected from the fans in the ivory towers. What's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. When they keep making the same mistake, that's what you call insanity. They can't even acknowledge their self-inflicted calamity. What's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, let's go. Scoop Senator Coffee Talks, also covering analytics, making his own reviews, cause it's always been the critics. They clout chasers, money driven, repeating the latest gimmick. Come over to Sil Nation where true vision is given. Listen, what's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. Let's not forget Mikey's son, always special to the crew. From day one when him and Sil got together for special brew. What's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, let's go. I guess I finish on this note. When the niggas go flip mode, they turn gremlins, I'm gizmo. Come from my people, my kinfolk. For them I ride for and kill for. With this pistol I'm skillful. Shit can really escalate till it all goes abysmal. What's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. I'm a watchman, forever vigilant, steady watching and listening, disciplined, militant, killing these dudes that started visiting. What's the latest word? Yo, Sil, we need to know. Tell us what you heard. Yo, Sil, we need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show, let's go.